So what's new with Clearscope? We're going to be talking about a bunch of different things. More importantly, the newest features like semantic grouping, competitor map, and outlines. Some of you have obviously seen these, but more importantly, we'll be looking at some advanced walkthroughs of how you can be using each one of these new features instead of just pointing them out and saying, oh, look, you can see your competitors now. There's obviously reasons why we've built the views and the features that we've built. So I'm going to quickly take you through all of those. What's new in Clearscope? You probably have seen that Clearscope's always just evolving ever so slightly. And recently we have made this big push where we've gotten rid of the overview tab, and when you dive into a Clearscope report, it just goes straight to the editor experience. That also means that you have your other tabs of the Clearscope report that's accessible in this little nav bar-ish area next to your report name. In competitors, then you can see a map of how the competition in terms of search is stacking up in content grade versus organic position. Obviously, things in the top right-hand corner are going to be ranking well and scoring well in terms of a content grade, and things that are in the lower right-hand quadrant are going to be scoring less well in terms of a content grade, but still ranking well. Now, we'll talk about what that means in the advanced walkthrough, but you have now a very quick way to visualize how well your search competitors are scoring from a content grade and organic position standpoint. If you're seeing this little trend line form, then it's indicative that content quality is a larger part of this particular topic. As you can imagine, different topics will deserve different criteria, just depending on what the topic is being written about. And something like how to surf, or something that might be medical related, you could imagine could deserve more video or expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. This view then is kind of designed to give you that insight to say how correlated is content grade to ranking for this particular query. Next up, if you haven't seen this, this is not super new of an addition, but it's definitely been one of the top features that people have been liking, which is the outline tab. You'll find that in your Clearscope report on the right-hand bar. Click on outline if you haven't already. And we'll quickly show you how everybody else has structured their pieces of content in terms of a heading perspective. We'll have results number 1 in desktop and on mobile, all the way down to 30. So you can see exactly how everybody else has formulated their content and get ideas on how you should be thinking about structuring your content. Semantic grouping, this is going to be the newest feature. You probably saw it show up in your Clearscope text editor sometime, I think last week is when we pushed it out. So you toggle the semantic grouping little thing that you see in the text editor. And what Clearscope does is its best job to subcategorize what's happening in terms of the term relationships. So we've built our own unique way of thinking about subcategorization, or some people in SEO could call this clustering. And what Clearscope is doing is that it's taking a look at each of the terms that are being used, like wetsuit, and we're looking then at the relationship or the distance of how each of the other terms are being mentioned in which order. So you can imagine if we're always seeing open water swim and wetsuit being used very closely together, then in other people's content, then we can say, okay, every time you talk about wetsuit, you probably want to talk about open water swim. So we have basically this distance of terms related to other terms, and we're doing our best job to try to subcategorize each of the terms. What that gets you is a very unique view where you can see all of the different groupings of terms semantically. We hope that this kind of sparks some more creativity from you or your writing team as they're drafting their pieces of content, because now you can toggle it, be like, oh, okay, yeah, we should probably have a section in this particular example on wetsuits and, talking about swimming, and obviously you're training for your first triathlon, which is, what I'm currently doing, which is why I ran the Clearscope reports for this. So semantic grouping, definitely something really interesting to check out. We're pretty psyched and proud about that. You can see here then the semantic grouping gets broken out by color. The colors don't actually indicate anything. They're just a visual representation of a grouping of terms, in case you were wondering. People have asked about that. So the advanced ways then to use these newer features can be boiled down into this. For the competitor map, right? If you care a lot about a specific high-level topic, maybe it's triathlons, maybe it's pet care, something like that. You run the Clearscope report on the target topic, navigate to the competitor map view, and investigate search competitors that are ranking well with low content grade. If the website looks low authority, then chances are they're servicing a different intent or have an interesting or unique content experience. So this lower right-hand quadrant in your competitor map is alluding to this idea, right? You kind of see, active.com or triathlon.org.au performing well with low content grades. If there's a low content grade, and again, it's high ranking, it really indicates, I think, one of three different things. Your piece of content, or that piece of content, is servicing a different search intent, in which case you can click on the competitor in the grid and we'll show you exactly how that content structure looks. So you can see, okay, active.com, yes, they are an authority on training and sports related things, but they're talking about from scratch, going from no experience training for a triathlon to all of a sudden wanting to trade. Maybe, right? That's an interesting intent that the user is caring a lot more about, and therefore the piece of content is able to do well. You can imagine a unique content experience could also be the reason why a content result is scoring low in terms of content grade, in the sense that they might have a lot of video embeds, or they might be a directory website or comparison or review. You oftentimes see that for software related terms, right? You're going to see a lot of best X and then a bunch of landing pages that perform really low. And you can kind of cut that by saying, okay, people want this type of intent versus that type of intent. Obviously, the last reason why a content result can be low in terms of content grade and ranking well is that it's a branded term, or the domain that's ranking is just a strong domain authority. You can imagine, right, if I ran a Clearscope report for Amazon customer support or how to use HubSpot to do some email marketing, HubSpot's piece of content that they've written or Amazon's piece of content on their customer support page is going to come up. Chances are it's going to score poorer than everything else, but it doesn't matter because it's more of a branded search, or the query itself, the domain authority that's associated with the page that's ranking is super high. So again, check out the lower right-hand quadrant when you're looking at a Clearscope report for the competitors. And I think that can quickly allow you to say, okay, is there some interesting perspectives, intents, opportunities from either enhancing my content experience or targeting a separate intent that the user could care about within this particular topic. Any questions, thoughts, feedback on any of this so far? Of course, just drop it in chat, and again, we'll cover it as they come up. Cool. The other advanced walkthrough, and this deals with semantic grouping. is refreshing existing content. So if you have a large inventory of content that you want to analyze, you can create a bunch of Clearscope reports using a batch functionality. You can export those reports to CSV. You can open those to see what content grades are scoring very low. And then Clearscope semantic grouping is going to help you visualize the gaps that are happening within your existing pieces of content. So to quickly show you how this works, you have when you're creating a Clearscope report, you have the ability to run a batch analysis where you put queries on the left, URLs on the right. When you then create the reports, you'll notice that in your report history, there is the ability to export all of your reports, the first 500, using the current filters that you see. In the export, what you're going to get is you're going to get all of the different queries, who ran the Clearscope report, the overview, the optimized URL, what your current content grades and word counts are. And then you'll notice that there's separate columns for the suggested content grade and the suggested typical word count. So you can imagine by running bulk reports using this manner, you can very quickly visualize what pieces of content exist on your site that are performing a little bit worse, right? In this example, the how to improve your credit score, which is the last row in the spreadsheet, is a C-, and we're typically looking at an A-. You can then say, okay, that's the piece of content that we want to go back, refresh, make sure that we're doing a good job covering that particular subject matter. And that's where you can come here and use the semantic grouping, right? So we put in then the piece of content, how to train your first triathlon. We toggled the semantic grouping up, and we can kind of see that, like, okay, we hadn't talked about some stuff surrounding gear or nourishment during the race. So what we're missing in terms of this piece of content to make it better allude to the ideas that conceptually these categories of sections need to be included within our piece of content. So the way that I like to approach content refreshes, and I know sometimes it's like bulldozing your existing piece of content because you're just like, oh, the direction of this piece is just completely off. So we have to rewrite it anyways, and that's going to be easier, is that I like to basically pretend the existing piece of content just didn't exist in the first place. We can then sort by semantic grouping and unused and look at the conceptual gaps that are missing within our piece of content. And then we can build out these little blocks that say, okay, right, we haven't talked about this particular subtopic nor that particular subtopic, at least to start. Then, right, once we've mapped out all of the little subtopic gaps that we have, we can go back to the existing piece of content and say, okay, do we have a section on gear? And if we do, great, we can now slot in, wetsuit, swim cap, that kind of stuff within that section. If you don't have the section, great, right? Now you know that you need to produce that section within your piece of content to cover the subject matter well. And when we do it in this particular manner, we will hit a content grade of an A+ or an A++, depending on what you're shooting for, very easily without having to think as hard about just kind of like stuffing in these unused terms here and there. Ultimately, the way that your content is really going to perform in terms of a search engine optimization practice is that you're actually directionally hitting what the user cares about for that particular topic. So we'll kind of take a look at what that looks like from a live perspective when we kind of look at the competitor, or not competitor, the content teardown that we'll be doing later for this. So that's refreshing existing content. You kind of want to just audit it using the bulk functionality, and then semantic grouping can really quickly help you visualize what gaps you might be missing. Last bit, building content briefs and outlines. Obviously, semantic grouping helps really clearly here, there's a lot of ways in Clearscope that we expedite the content brief and outline process. And you can kind of see, okay, your themes, your questions, your common citations, these just directly map into the different templates that you might be building in terms of your content briefs and your content outlines. Semantic grouping, obviously really important. And then the outline, right, to give you additional ideas on how you should be thinking about your content structure. Again, this takes the content brief building time from maybe a few hours to less than an hour, and it's super effective because you have everything, all of your data in one place. So you can use basically all of these to augment what you want to be writing about. Cool. So in this section, we're going to move into both a combination of questions that we've sourced, questions that come from you live, and SEO content teardowns. To start, we have an SEO content teardown for Let's Deel. They specifically have a piece of content that they want to rank better for, which is this one over here. So let's open this up right here. So we have a piece of content that's targeting what is an independent contractor agreement, a complete guide. There's two separate keywords that this content result wants to rank for. Number one would be what is a independent contractor agreement, like this. And then the second keyword, which is a little bit more ambitious, is going to be the high level topic itself, right? Independent contractor agreement, like that. So first off, let's point out all of the things that's good about this page. You'll notice that when I Google what is an independent contractor agreement, we're already getting Let's Deel to rank #1 for that. Awesome job, Anja, who's in the audience over here. So let's take a look at what's good. You can see here, they have a nice table of contents that persists while you scroll. And why you're seeing a lot of people engage with these table of contents, in case you're not completely on board or somebody on your team in terms of design or engineering or product is like, oh, okay, why do we need to have these? The reason why you see a lot of the top like results in Google, you can see here, like for 401k, you have Investopedia, who has this nice little thing. Well, I guess they changed it. Oh, it's over here. The table of contents over here that persists on the left-hand side. You can imagine for something health related, obviously you're going to see Healthline will do like keto diet like this. And then Healthline is going to have that little thing right here. What all of them do is that you click on it and it just links you to the section within the piece of content that's talking about that particular subtopic. Same thing would happen over here. And of course, same thing would happen over here like this. Again, the reason why these have become super popular in terms of SEO is thought of as a user experience or intent match. So you can imagine that somebody's looking for 401ks or independent contractor agreements, and people don't really read as much as they used to in terms of online content, right? They do more of the scanning. So when somebody lands on your page surrounding any given topic, it's unclear why they're here. Obviously, they're here to learn about what is an independent contractor agreement, but more specifically, maybe they care about, do I need an independent contractor agreement? Maybe they care about how to terminate an independent contract agreement. So in these particular cases, what a table of contents does very apparently is that it gives the user a snapshot of the different sections or subtopics that your piece of content is talking about and allows them to self-select the section or subtopic that they care the most about. Because again, yes, we know they're here broadly to learn about what is an independent contractor agreement, but by giving them this very quick view it allows them to jump straight to the section that they care about, which then increases your user engagement, increases the ability of your content to conclude the search journey. And that is really good. So that's really good. Good job. We typically recommend that everybody does like a table of contents. I would say if I were to be like a little bit nitpicky here, maybe, consolidating the length of some of the table of contents, like what you see with Investopedia, right? They're not like contribution limits or like, what are the contribution limits? It's just like contributions, withdrawals. You can kind of see the same thing happening for Healthline's keto diet, right? They're not saying benefits. Well, they are saying other benefits, but they aren't like drawing them out into these like long, lengthy questions. They're just saying, okay, these are like the exact like keyword matches that you would care about. And that's kind of where we would recommend in Clearscope. That's like the heading. I now have a report here for independent contractor agreement, right? So that's where these heading recommendations could come into play. That's also where these themes can also come into play, right? It's like, oh, okay, yeah, you're going to talk about a non-compete. And even though it's like the heading dot doesn't show up, it is actually still in order of what is the most highly likely heading representation. So you can even click on freelancers and we'll kind of show you that like freelancer was probably used, yeah, in a heading or two. So even though Clearscope might not visually show the heading presence badge, when you sort by heading presence, you'll still kind of see that show up there. So that's then one nitpick of this particular page that we're looking at. I would say, other than that, the other thing about this page, and again, this page does a really good job in covering all of the different angles that the user can care about. You can see here, we've scored the Clearscope report for what is an independent contractor, and it's doing pretty well. It also answers, as you can see, a lot of the different people also ask questions throughout the piece of content. And so overall, again, it's done a really good job. I can't really critique it too much because it's already ranking #1 for what is an independent contractor agreement. Now you can see here, the challenge is to get up to ranking for independent contractor agreement. Now, that's going to be a lot more difficult. And the reason why is because, well, it's a head topic, but you'll notice that when we do the Google search, the types of results that we see showing up are specifically related to creating a free one, or you can see here, downloading one like this. So generally during this step, right, what I'm always recommending, and you've probably seen me or heard me talk about this a bajillion times by now, but just in case you haven't or you want to see it done again, we want to do a search intent classification, right? This is a broad, high-level topic, and we don't necessarily know what the user is specifically caring about within this particular category. Now, first, right, we'll also take a look at the keyword discovery in Clearscope. So I've run a Clearscope keyword discovery. I've sorted it by exact match, which means in Clearscope, we have actually made a change to how keyword discovery works. I forgot that we had done that, but since we're here, let me point out the stuff that you can now get in Clearscope's keyword discovery. So first of all, you enter in a query like this, independent contractor agreement. And then what Clearscope does is that we'll pull out the most popular Google autocomplete suggestions by then appending and prepending the different letters. We'll then prepend all of the question modifiers. We'll then look at the related searches and the people also ask, and then we'll generate some more keyword ideas based on what Google Keyword Planner is suggesting. All of that then gets packaged together into this nice keyword discovery format where you can actually sort by a variety of different filters. Questions are going to be the most popular questions surrounding the topic that you're writing about. Trending will indicate that we're seeing more search interest over the last 6 months for this particular topic. An exact match forces us to give you the list that matches independent contractor agreement one-to-one. So you can come here. I typically like to take a look at, all of them. And then I like to take a look at exact match to get a good understanding of what, the different subtopics could be. And that's a great way to start for search intent classification. The next step that we want to do is we want to perform the Google search itself for independent contractor agreement, which is what we have over here on the right. We'll then kind of take a look and say, okay, well, result number 1 saying like create free like this. And result number 2 is, well, like kind of what looks to be a form. Kind of want to drill in. All right, it's just like create the document free, pretty much like that. We'll then see here, make your free. It's again, create free. You have here HR forms from SHRM. I'm not sure, right? Yeah, download. So it's just a straight up create free like that. And then sample independent, again, sample create free template, that kind of stuff. SEC, right? This is probably their, yeah, like independent contractor agreement template or something like that. And then free, and then doc, and then make it in minutes. So basically, there you go. Right, everybody wants to create an independent contractor agreement for free. You can see here the exact match also alludes to exactly that intent, right? People who Google independent contractor agreement literally want a template or a sample. So that's to say this page that we have for what is an independent contractor agreement, a complete guide, is, well, not necessarily doing a good job meeting the intent for what people are at least engaging with. At least that's what Google is telling us when they serve this sort of a page. You'll kind of see though that there is a little bit of an intent right here, like explained, a video carousel. I'll usually mark that a video carousel exists like this. And you'll actually notice that if I were to look on the second page, I believe, yeah, let's deal is here. What is an independent contractor agreement? So that's to say, it's still doing a good job trying to rank for independent contractor agreement. But again, I don't know if this piece of content has a template. Does it? Or a bad idea? Okay, why they're a bad idea? So yeah, that's to say, and there's no sample, that there, maybe we're going to have some conflicts in terms of the search intent that is dominant and your business model. In that particular case, well, it gets a little bit tricky. But if we're to just put our search engine optimization lenses on, you would want to focus on giving somebody free independent contractor agreement templates, because that's what we see showing up over here. So the way that this piece of content is currently structured is more akin to a topic cluster, hub page, pillar page, parent page, whatever you want to call them, but one of these sorts of things. And you have kind of independent contractor agreement, basically really lean towards this idea of sample free like template like this. So what we'd want to do is we would want to take your what is an independent contractor agreement, and I mean, maybe still take the stance that a free template is a bad idea, but if you wanted a free template or a sample, like here are some resources you can download or check out. So you'll still want this as a heading section within your piece of content, even though directionally it may be against your business model, because again, what everybody else cares about is that. And then what we would also want to do is like, okay, here maybe it's like here's a template, right? Here's a template. Here's how like XXX company does their independent contractor agreement. And then it's like check out all of our like content on samples and templates. And so then you'd want to link out to a piece of content on your website that's like, /blog/ICA/like template like that. And then in this new piece of content that's like titled 20, templates for independent contractor agreements, you would then 20 templates and samples to check out, right? Something like this, because that's what we see people care about. They want to make a free one, and then they want to see, right, a sample of an independent contractor agreement. I bet you if your leadership or your brand team is on board with you creating this piece of content, even though, right, directionally you want to say they're bad and that's why you should use our software, this is going to do really well. And maybe you're able to bend the page experience where you get people to input their emails as part of the a download for, maybe you give out like a doc and a PDF for free, but you're like, oh, if you want the 5 other templates or samples to check out, enter in your email. A lot of people do because they're getting that value. Then you can use that to generate leads. Obviously, if they're looking for free independent contractor agreements, you could argue that, okay, maybe that overall intent is low business value for Deel, and you skip it altogether. But this is how we would have broken it out. So the recommendations I would have here is, we'll boil it down into your topic cluster. What we want to do is add a section on templates and samples. What we want to do then within that section is link out to a brand new page on like templates and samples for independent contractor agreements. Then in your brand new page, you probably want to have a few templates and samples that the user can download without any friction. So, right, no email collection, none of that. And then you probably want to have a deeper call to action that's download, 10 plus more examples and templates. And that's an email capture right there. And that way you would be covering, again, the dominant intent that the user cares about. You'll also be bolstering your topic cluster, which in the future, I could totally see break into the front page, especially if you had a section that actually gave people the templates and the samples that they're caring about. So that is then the way that we would have teared down this content result. Nobody else actually submitted things to be teared down. So in lieu of that, obviously we have some time. Feel free to drop landing pages, keywords, things that you want me to take a look at. And I will do exactly what I just did by analyzing those pages. So drop those into the Q&A. If you have other Q&A and feedback just based on what we just did, drop those into the chat and the Q&A as well. We had a couple of questions that we sourced before the call. One of them came from Bogdan. He says, okay, for some topics, I have it right here, For some topics like best POS system, almost all articles that rank in the top 10 to 20 positions have low content grade. In cases like this, do you think we should focus on other directions? So let's take a look at what's happening with best POS systems like this. We'll run a Clearscope keyword discovery, also create a Clearscope content report for best POS systems. And to take a look at this, right, best POS system, and take a look at exact match. People care about these different subcategories in terms of what industry types that they might be going after. And take a look at best POS systems over here. So just straight up for 2022, 9 best, NerdWallet's best, 10 best for small business, 7 best for retail, best for just best overall, best for small business. So you can see here that the top autocomplete suggestions right, for restaurants and for small businesses and for retail kind of show up, and you kind of see the retail there and then the small business over there. And then if we're to take a look at this content result, yeah, best POS, hardware, restaurant, and online ordering system. So first, let me show you something pretty interesting if you haven't seen this already. If we did a search for best credit cards like this, and we did a search over here in incognito for best credit cards over here, and we took a look at the NerdWallet example like this, you'll kind of see that NerdWallet has this table of contents like this. That's like, oh, maybe you care about balance transfer, travel, low interest, cashback, rewards, building credit, student, fair credit, business. Guess what you have as the most dominant monthly searches and autocomplete suggestions? Travel, rewards, business, cashback, build credit, students, balance transfer. These match exactly to what you would expect like this. So when you're building out the best of pages, especially if you're going after a high level category like best POS systems, you'll notice that a lot of the top results are doing this, like this, right? Best POS hardware, best restaurant, best online. So in terms of your best POS system, what you want is a above the fold table of contents that matches the subcategories that the user cares about. So you can imagine, right? Let's pull this into a new text editor experience. Best POS systems for 2022. Well, what the user is likely to care about is restaurants, small business, retail, bars, maybe food trucks, right? Like obviously the difference in the monthly search volume really starts to drop off after small restaurants. So you can imagine we probably don't need small restaurants if we have restaurants and small businesses, but you can imagine best for, and you have retail and small business and restaurant, retail, we have retail, bar, like that, and food trucks, maybe food trucks like that. So when somebody then lands on your best POS system page for whatever reason, if you had this nice above the fold experience that matches, again, the core subcategories that the user is going to care about, well, you're doing it good, right? Somebody lands on this page, you're like, yeah, I do care about small business because I'm a small business, or I do care about food truck. Wow, how did you know? So in cases like this, and again, I haven't taken a look at the content grade scoring for best POS systems. So let's take a look at that in the competitors. Actually, I mean, this alludes to content grades, yeah, being pretty correlated with performance. So yeah, and should you focus on? So yeah, anyways, I would approach this by doing the correct subcategories in terms of what the user is most likely to care about. And we would get that from keyword discovery for best POS systems, right? We can then kind of sort by exact match and say, okay, these are going to be the subcategories of things that users are most likely to care about for best of. This really works well for best of. And then you kind of see it mapped out here, yeah, best retail, best for small business. So they've basically just done exactly this. And that's what you want to do for your best pages. All right, we have one more that came from Rachana that was before when we were sourcing questions. If I publish the same article on my website, LinkedIn, and Medium, how will it affect the organic traffic to my website article? Yeah, so in essence, when you're doing this, you're creating three or more, 3+ duplicate content pieces that all say the same thing. Now, the problem with this is that Google's gonna take a look at this and say, okay, well, which one was the original one, or which one is gonna get more clicks? So you can imagine you have your website and you have, content A, and you have LinkedIn and you have content A. You also have Medium and you have content A like this. Now Google is going to first crawl whatever, all of these sites, and they're going to go, okay, maybe the content first showed up, right? Like first shown here. So they're going to say, okay, maybe that's the correct canonical is what SEOs would call this, but that's the, like where the original piece of content showed up. So we're going to try, your and content A, right? For a keyword search A, we're going to try your search engine result, maybe, here for keyword A, like this. And so this is content A, your website, like this. But what Google's going to see, right, is that they're going to say, hey, but I saw it here, like this. So they're going to say, okay, well, what would I try? LinkedIn content A, like this. And then they're going to evaluate your content piece. I mean, not explicitly on click-through rate, because Google doesn't actually use that, or so they say. But they're going to evaluate it on your click-through rate, your user engagement, and overall the ability where when somebody sees this as a search engine results page, how likely is it to meet the needs of the searcher? So what happens though, is that if your website isn't a really strong brand, right? It's not like a Nerd Wallet or a Healthline. Well, somebody's going to see LinkedIn in the content result, and they're going to be like, oh, okay, that seems better. And they're more likely to click on a LinkedIn or a Medium thing, especially if, again, your website's not a strong brand, but it's also not a strong authority. So the overall user engagement is likely to be better with a brand like a LinkedIn or a Medium. And then from there, Google's going to say, oh, okay, well, I'll just give the traffic to Media because it just has better user engagement than your website that may not necessarily have a strong brand or a domain authority. Now, the right way to do this, I don't know if Medium deprecated it, but Medium stake, Medium canonical import, something like this. Yeah. So this is like the right way to do it, is that you should be able to import a post to Medium, and Medium, right, will apply a canonical URL referencing the original source material. So that's to say then you can cross post it to Medium, but the canonical link in SEO speak is saying, oh, but the original piece of content actually showed up on my website. So that's the right way to do it there. I don't believe LinkedIn has a canonical thing. So what people do is that, say this is the piece of content, importing a post to Medium like this. They'll say they'll publish it to LinkedIn and they'll include a sentence right here that's like, this post first appeared on website on, whatever, 5/19/2022. And then they have the rest of the piece of content. And then they link this to the original piece of content. So this is how I've seen people do it. Again, this is for a LinkedIn cross post like this. I think this is fine because Google technically really doesn't like LinkedIn to for a content source, at least based on what I've seen. They're not as good at scraping it, or not there's something that's not that great about LinkedIn articles. So you want to then, for this particular answer, you want to import the post to Medium. We'll have this as the right way to do that. And then for your LinkedIn, you want to add a sentence above the body content that says that this post first appeared on my website on date. That's kind of the conventional way that I've seen people do it. Cool. Okay. Lots of good stuff. So let's take a look at Felix's question. He asks, given that you showed that simple but so fundamental content structure, is there a tool that can automate that kind of content infrastructure creation? That's tricky. So I would say not quite. You'll notice that a lot of tools are basically getting into GPT-3. And GPT-3 is cool because it's pretty magical. And you can imagine what a lot of people do is something like this, right? Like steps to create great content like that. And then you can do one, do keyword research. to, like look at competitors like this. And obviously, well, not obviously, but this is all what the rest of the content, like natural language generation tools are doing. They're just being like, all right, go ahead. All right, not so bad, right? And then, GPT-3 looks at this set of content and they say, okay, well, what typically follows keyword research competitors in a list type order? And you'll get create an outline, write and edit. So that's to say that there are a lot of ways to do like automatic content creation, but ultimately these tools are simply a little bit basic in the sense that they're just regurgitating exactly what all these billions of documents that they've ingested are. So our take on it is obviously, when you use Clearscope, you could argue that, yeah, you're just taking a look at everything else that's performing as well and trying to incorporate as many of those entities or concepts as possible. Now, of course, that is true, but what we want to give you is the freedom, right? Not the prescription of what you need to be doing. So that's why we've purposely made Clearscope very, we would hope, very like freedom feeling, right? A writer who comes to write content in Clearscope isn't being forced to say, this is exactly how you should structure your piece of content, right? We're just saying, look, these are things that you should consider when you're creating your piece of content on this particular topic. And what that allows, in our opinion, like writers to do is feel like they can bring something extra to the table. So all of that's to say, I would be wary about using something that automatically creates, all of the subsections within your thing, because ultimately, is that actually adding significant value to what people are writing about for that topic? At least based on my understanding of how natural language generation and automated like stuff works currently, it would just simply be a reflection of what already was. And that's where we'd say, yeah, you can do that, but perhaps, adding extra stuff and being less prescriptive, giving your writers more freedom is actually going to produce just way better results. All right, I have some more teardowns. So let's kind of quickly take a look at what I can take a look at in the chat. So let's see here. We have one from Mike. He wants to take a look at covered call screener like this. So let's take a look at this covered call screener. Let me just close out of a bunch of this stuff. And then we have this as the piece of content to take a look at. So I covered, this is right. It's a covered call, which is like a trading thing. So if I were to take a look at covered call screener, right, we have a list of the top, probably like volume based, like stock options that people care about. So if we took a look at covered call screener in terms of a search intent perspective, let's just quickly take a look at all of these. This seems pretty okay. Yeah. And then you got the financial stuff. Check out the new design, enter the symbol. Can I actually enter in a symbol? And will this work? No. Maybe I gotta disable my ad blocker. All right, let's see. And then let's take a look at the keyword discovery for covered call screener like that. Okay, so this did not work. Doesn't work. Okay. And then this, right? Okay, is all of that. And then yeah, you have free, you have best. You have Thinkorswim. So I'd expect Thinkorswim to probably show up here. No, no. Okay. Yep. And then let's take a look at your content piece. What is it good? Usable. Okay. So I'll fly through these because I keep seeing them pop up. But the biggest thing to note is probably that you have 3,300-ish additional covered call like things to that people care about is just show more of them, right? Like what you have here. So people want this like idea of like what they can expect based on the top volume of probably like, you know, trading, or I'm not sure how this gets how this list is actually being sorted. But I would say that the user wants to see a list of the probably popular you know, options available. And what you want to do specifically is just expose more of the additional matching results, right? Expose more of the matching results. Here, right, let's take a look. So if we do, it's like, you know, let's see here, if we do like percent, it's 108, there's a lot of them, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it looks like they're doing about 20, a list of 20 over here. You can see here, this is going crazy, but you can see here that this, yeah, has like 10. So I would say maybe 10 to 20 would be good, and then have more columns, the, you know, like expiry date, bid call, that sort of thing that users are looking for, and then have your CTA. So that's probably it. Again, right, people don't really care as much about the like what it is, what makes it usable, that sort of thing. They want to see how they can use your product or service to accomplish what they care about. All right, we have one from Yelp. This page ranked on page 1 for exact match of the headline top US restaurants. Yelp's top 100 US restaurants. Okay, so top US restaurants like this. Let's kind of quickly take a look here. And let's see what we see showing up. So in America, according to TripAdvisor, let's see here. I'm in Austin. Okay, right. In America, in the United States, in America, 101. All right, let's take a look at these. I wonder, okay, Dennis Green. Yeah, I mean, this doesn't seem too great. Let's take a look at this. Top 25 to try. Okay, and kind of have, you can see here a little bit of that table of contents thing going on. And then, cool. So let's take a look at what you're doing here. One Cocina. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why this piece of content is not doing as well as it could. And I'm not sure if I can arrive at that answer in the next 5 minutes, but I will take a look after the call, and I will get back to you on some suggestions that you can be making. I do want to just run this Clearscope report and see what's going on there. Okay, so let's see here. We have another one from Stefana. Again, I don't have enough time, but what I'll do is I will, if you want to drop them in the chat and the Q&A, I will do them and give you like a little short write-up after the call. I just need to make sure to jot these down, or else I'm going to forget. So let's do, I should be able to get them from chat. Cool. All right, so we have this from Try Roots. It's going to be from Stefana, Zarek. And then we have Lori, who wants Yelp stuff. Cool. So yeah, if you have any other ones, I'll definitely take a look at them after the webinar and send it over to you to check. One more question in the Q&A. Felix asks a subsequent question. Is there a chance that Clearscope Uberizes itself towards the gig economy? There are so many still optimization opportunities, maybe an on-demand gig system versus percentage. Boom. I actually am having trouble wrapping my head around exactly that question. Maybe what you're asking is if we start, I don't know, like hiring freelance writers, or offering content writing services like as a turnkey. And my current opinion and stance on that is we're probably going to stay away from services and those sorts of offerings, right? There's plenty of agencies that we support that use Clearscope where their entire bread and butter is doing this. And if anything, we want to encourage and empower those agencies and those services to just do better. So if I were to go in a particular direction with turnkey like briefs or whatever, I would rather just refer those business out to our wonderful customers. And that's currently how I feel about that. So yeah, we're right about at time. Again, it looks like it was pretty fun. I had a lot of fun just answering questions and tearing down content. And if you want some teardowns actually, but you don't want it to be super public, you can just email me, bernard@clearscope.io, and I will put together these short sorts of analyses for you. I will probably do it maybe through Zoom. So you get these like 10-minute personal videos that I just take a look at, and you get the stream of conscious analysis as I'm like thinking through how I would approach this. Cool. Any other concluding questions, thoughts, feedback, comments? Should we do this again? Again, we don't really do AMAs or teardowns that frequently. So yeah, let me know. I mean, tweet at me. Yes, more of this. Cool. Yeah, then we'll probably figure out something where we can do more of these types of things. But thank you so much for tuning in. Glad that all of y'all had a great experience, and we'll look forward to doing more of these. Now, before we wrap this up, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe so you don't miss out on more great content from the industry's best SEOs, content marketers, and content strategists. The Clearscope webinar series happens every week and helps SEO content creators of all skill levels advance their knowledge. Hope to see you tune in next time.